Hey guys, this is Eric Allred, founder of the Cannabis Advertising Agency. This is episode 1 of Dispensary.io. Put together this video series to better help dispensary owners, dispensary managers, general managers, bud tenders, anyone that's involved in the marketing activity of the dispensary to better understand kind of some of the obfuscation that happens from agencies or just due to the depth of digital marketing. So this is going to be a short video series. Today we're going to be looking at local SEO, specifically measurement. But before we hop in, I do want to cover a couple of things. Just give you a brief understanding of, what are the different types of SEO are there? What are the different types of search queries? I often refer to this as, what is your traffic composition as far as your keyword strategy goes? Then we'll move into measurement framework, some of the tools and technology we really like to use, including our proprietary business intelligence tool, and then just some examples in practice, kind of illustrating some of the points we talked about earlier in this video. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you need some help, feel free to contact us or just shoot me a message directly. But with that, we'll hop in. So SEO types, it really breaks into 3 buckets. You have what's called on-page SEO. So you can think about this is stuff that happens directly within your website. You have off-page SEO. So this is stuff that happens off your website, but it has the opportunity to influence your rankings within the search engine result page. And then you have technical SEO. I like to just think about this as, these are things we're doing specifically for Google or any other search engine's crawlers. To just better understand the content and help surface the most relevant information. So with, on-page SEO, this refers to stuff like keywords. So for a local business, one of the most important things here is we want to make sure that we're dealing with localized keywords. Simply writing for stuff nationally does not mean that in your local market that you're going to benefit on a pro rata basis. Second is meta tags. So, your page title, your meta description. This just tells Google what the page is about. And we have URL structures, so it's incredibly important to be mindful of your directory structure, subdirectories, length of your URLs, and then even more specifically, how user-friendly are they in terms of, if a user wanted to go back and find that page for that. We have internal linking, so this just simply refers to linking to other content on your website. The big thing to just keep in mind here is the concept of having your anchor text. So that is the text that gets highlighted when you have an outbound link to another page, always aiming to make it descriptive. But most importantly, when a user clicks on that, they should have a strong understanding of what that post experience is going to be on the next page. And lastly is image optimization. So this could be speed. We could be referring to alt tags, asset naming, other things that'll impact your ability to show up in the Google image search results. Second is off page. The big role here is just this really has an influence on your reputation and authority. The higher you are perceived from a reputation standpoint by Google, the easier it is going to be to rank. And so one of the easiest ways to do that is, building an incredibly strong backlink profile from other websites that have really high domain authority. And once again, domain authority is just a name for, how much value does Google place on the content that we put out, or how authoritative is it? The last part here is technical SEO. And technical SEO, like I said, this is really written specifically for the search engines. So stuff like website speed, mobile optimization, obviously that's more of a UX perspective. When you're running a Google Lighthouse or page speed dev insights report on Google, you're going to get your performance, your SEO, your accessibility. That really kind of fits into that bucket. Your sitemap, so this is typically an XML file. Sometimes you can have separate product sitemaps, image sitemaps, content sitemaps. And what this basically does is this tells the crawlers from the different search engines, one, can you index this? And 2, here's kind of the hierarchy of the website, that it's reading. Then we have robots.txt and structured data markup. The big thing with structured data markup, we see this almost missing on every dispensary website. It's a form of schema, And for dispensaries, we have what's called local business schema. So one way to kind of think about this is as you start to see in your searches, are they open late? Are they currently open? Do they have specials? What structured data markup basically allows you to do is surface information that's most relevant for the crawlers with stuff like our phone number, address, an embedded map. And that just gives you, once again, a little bit more credibility, authority, and makes stuff a little bit more relevant and easy to index specifically for those crawlers. Next are search types or search queries. And one of the things that I think is really important to understand here is not all searches are created equal. Some searches have more commercial value than others. And the reason that's important is a lot of agencies, specifically SEO agencies, will share how much they grew a specific website's traffic. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. And we'll kind of dive into it in this next slide, but it's really important to understand that just because you're growing your overall traffic pie, if you can't service that traffic, it doesn't have any commercial value to you. The one exception would be anytime you have a really high ranking national piece of content, that often can earn backlinks, which can trickle down via authority and relevance over the long term. But for most local, dispensaries, you really want to be focused on localizing your content around specific categories of search types. So these search types break out into 4 buckets. The first one's informational. So the best way to kind of think about this is, a user's looking for a specific piece of information or an answer to their question. And now that Google's running zero-click search, or they call it Google Passages, you've now seen that they actually will show a rich snippet result in there. Even this type of content isn't necessarily leading to website traffic, even if you're getting the impression for that in Google Search Console. Terms like this might be like how to smoke a pre-roll, what are the effects of indica strains. In aggregate, these are typically much less valuable terms because they're not expressing a commercial intent. So when we say expressing a commercial intent, what we're referring to is they're not really demonstrating at this point that they're looking to purchase. They're much higher or earlier on in their consideration or the buyer's journey, for cannabis. These also typically have the highest volume though. So that's the trade-off there. Second is navigational. So this really refers to when users are trying to find a specific website or location. What we've really found for most of our dispensaries, these typically are the most valuable terms. Dispensary near me, both the highest volume and the most competitive. And then you have what I would call like explicit expressions where we're modifying the search term with a city prefix or a city suffix. So dispensary near me, that's implicit. I'm likely in that geographic area. I'm looking for something close to me. Let's take a term like La Mesa Dispensary. What that signals to Google is I might be outside of the area, but I'm looking to navigate towards that. And so that would be the great instance of, creating what we would call like a city page or a gateway page, building a page specifically for that search term. You really, really, really want to focus on navigational, transactional, and commercial when you're, building out your first stages of your content. Third is transactional. So this refers to when users are ready to make a purchase or actually complete an online action. So search terms like buy weed online, order weed delivery Los Angeles. You can see that compared with our informational, how they're expressing the desire to complete an action. And so that's how we can think about transactional terms. And then the fourth one is commercial. So this refers to when they're doing product research or looking for specific services with the intent to make a purchase in the future. So some examples of that might be best strains for anxiety, top rated edibles. So the way to kind of think about this is, informational is typically going to be your top of funnel. It can be great for driving awareness, kind of that first impression. After that, you typically see most of your commercial terms. So there's a little bit more buyer intent, but they're not necessarily expressing that they're ready to transact right now. And then bottom of funnel, you have your transactional and navigational terms. What's really unique to the cannabis space and dispensary space specifically, because you can't, conduct commerce across state lines, or shouldn't be. These transactional terms don't have the commercial value they would if things were 50 state legal and people were able to ship cross border. Now, I say all this because when you're putting together your website and you're starting to map your keywords to each piece of content, it's incredibly important that you're focusing on these terms that have some of the most commercial value. So that really kind of reiterates that point I was trying to make earlier about I can grow your traffic, to 10,000 sessions a month, 15,000 sessions a month. But if it's not the right type of traffic, that isn't going to translate into, the business outcomes that matter most to you. Next is measurement. So, one of the biggest things that I found in talking to dispensary owners, our own clients, it can be really hard to create an effective measurement framework. And one of the most important things to consider when you're doing that is I always kind of start this way, or what are the questions that I'm looking to answer should always be the foundation of every single measurement framework, because everything kind of coalesces under that. If you're not able to ask high quality questions, it's going to be incredibly difficult to put together a measurement framework that surfaces the information that you're looking for answers to. So, the way that we kind of think about measurement within the scope of local SEO is we think about it in kind of a three-pronged way. So we think about it at the listing level. So you could think about this as like a Google My Business profile. Within that, you have visibility. So how often did our map card show up? How often did we trigger a search engine result page? Those are what we would call visibility, because they're simply impressions. It didn't necessarily mean that the user took a subsequent action. The second thing we like to track is performance. And we would measure that via profile interactions. So in Google My Business reporting, you can see things like click to calls, clicks for directions, clicks to website. These are basically, kind of the conversion you're looking for. And then we have a proprietary metric that we look to do called profile interaction rate. And so what this simply refers to is what percentage of these views or my visibility is turning into interactions. And the reason that this is important is it's one thing to grow visibility, but if you're able to grow visibility in parity with performance, so let's say you tripled the amount of views, but were able to maintain your profile interaction rate, that means that you are ranking and getting visibility for the right type of terms. There's another world where you could have visibility go down and performance or profile interaction rates go up. And that means that you're actually starting to rank for more relevant search terms. So visibility in a silo isn't the most important thing. You'll hear me talk about this across all the videos. It really comes down to this kind of confluence of signal. I'm not looking at single metrics in a vacuum, understanding what the relationship is between the inputs and the outputs of these measurement frameworks. Then for reviews, we want to look at reputation, because this is a huge thing in terms of winning the local map pack and ranking effectively for local SEO. So things you want to be looking at on a monthly basis, how many reviews did we get? What was the average review rating? What is our average review rating over all time? And what is our average response time? So how quickly is it taking us to respond to a comment, feedback? Maybe you're remedying a situation. We always recommend doing that kind of publicly to demonstrate to other users that might be reviewing that review, that you as the owner or general manager, store manager have kind of taken the appropriate action. Another proprietary metric we look at is review rate. And the reason we do that is review velocity. So, the number of reviews you're acquiring is really important. So one of the things we like to do to kind of measure that efficacy is what percentage of transactions that we have each month are turning into reviews. And so that's a great proxy for what is your kind of review velocity. And that oftentimes can lead to in-store training, talking to bud tenders, right? What can we do to improve the quantity of reviews we're getting relative to the number of customers that are coming in on a monthly basis? The last part of local SEO is website performance. We break these out into two buckets. We have the macro, which we would just refer to as purchases. So, buy online, pick up in stores, stuff like that. And then we have the micro, those on-site. So, direction clicks, clicks to call. If you do in-store events, we love having kind of that, in-store event calendar. Great for obviously retention and loyalty as well to kind of broadcast those events. And, new signups, whether that be email signups, that can be, loyalty members, but really looking at kind of both of those buckets, because not everyone may want to purchase online. We oftentimes see a huge skew of people that will kind of shop online, window shop, and then come into the store and make a purchase. And so if you're not tracking both of those, you're really only getting, a portion of the journey. And I'm just going to quickly run you through some of the tools and technology we use. Really when I think about tools and technology, it's, thinking about how do we employ technology, or how do we utilize tools to improve our understanding of time and resource allocation? What channels are actually working, right? Or what activities are actually working, so that we can focus there and double down on where we're allocating money, personnel, collective time, stuff like that. One of the biggest mistakes I see across almost every business is they're kind of spreading the peanut butter too thin, because there's typically a lot more marginal impact you can get out from a channel that's already working, than trying to kind of spray and pray and hope you get something that works over time. All right, I got the header wrong on this. So tools. So our kind of tool stack that we like to use, big one is Ahrefs. Some of our kind of favorite reports is the rank tracker. That allows you to look at how specific keywords in a local area are performing over time. The site audit, that really helps surface, some of the more technical errors. Do you have broken links? Do you have, canonicals that are changing? Do you have 404 errors? How's your content performing? What keywords is it performing for? Then I always like to just go to Google Search Console, since Google kind of is that, source of truth, and just make sure that, what we're seeing in Ahrefs is, kind of reflected by Google. Anytime I'm looking at any of these metrics, just keep in mind that everything should be viewed on a relative basis, because oftentimes you'll see quite a bit of a disparity between what's being reported in Search Console, right, which is data from your site, and what Ahrefs might be forecasting. The other thing with Ahrefs is you're oftentimes looking at a 12-month average. So if a keyword is growing in popularity or search volume, that's typically not going to be reflected in the reporting for a couple of months. So in that sense, it can be a little bit of a lagging indicator. GA4, one of our big reasons we love this is this and Tag Manager to set those on-site events. So when we're talking about stuff like clicks to website, directions, you can definitely do that, and make sure that you understand where those conversions are taking place, what pieces of content are driving those conversions. Bright Local, we really, really love the local search grid. We also love to use them for citation management and reputation management. And then we have our own BI tool. And the reason that we've really found this, valuable specifically in the cannabis space, is there's a lot of third-party platforms that kind of silo their data. So this allows us to kind of take these disparate data sources, pipe them all into a data warehouse, kind of slice and dice the metrics the way we need to, so that we can create a much clearer picture of what is and what is not working, or being able to kind of measure stuff from Dutchie against Weed Maps, against Alpine, so that we can just get a more complete, holistic picture of the marketing effort. So this is an example, little screenshot from Benchmark, just to kind of highlight it. So this right here is one of our listing performance modals. So you can see, as we discussed earlier, blue column there is visibility. So this is map views and search views. The red column is profile interactions. So that's your calls, website clicks, directions. And then yellow, that trend line, that is your profile interaction rate. So this example right here for this client, what's so exciting to see about this is they are having their best month in visibility. They're having their best month in profile interactions. And on a relative basis, as they increase their visibility, the activity or the interaction rate is going up in parity with that, which means you've kind of struck the perfect balance of growth there, and you're growing on the right terms. Other things that'll drive higher profile interaction rates is if you're over indexed into something like branded search or branded terms. We know that those obviously have a much higher click-through rate. So that's one thing to kind of consider when you're looking at a report like this. And up here on the right, this is just our target, because we're a big proponent of having a plan, setting expectations, and something to measure against, so that you know whether or not you're on pace, or what kind of effort is driving what outcome. So you can see that they obviously had a pretty exciting month across the board there. Second is the local search grid. So we pulled this same dispensary. What's cool about this, you'll see right here, this is the result for dispensary near me. So incredibly strong kind of performance for this specific dispensary. We recently moved them from a drag and drop to a WordPress implementation. That also allowed us to leverage Dutch e-commerce, which has the embedded menu rather than using an iframe. But this is what I would refer to as the implicit, right? So dispensary near me. So a lot of these results are based on how users are going to get results if they're searching within one of those little grids. The other big takeaway when you're looking at like a report like this is demographics and density matter. This is a relatively rural area. So if this were New York City or somewhere a lot more, you're not going to be able to kind of dominate the competitive landscape like this, just because there's going to be so many more competitors, so many more people. So that's just something to take into account if you notice that you're getting really good performance in one specific market that sprawls a little bit more. I would really look at, what is the population density and what is the competitor density. And then we'll see as I said, the explicit. So dispensary Lake Elsinore. So this is someone that might be out of area looking to come in, right? So they're saying, hey, what's, a dispensary in Lake Elsinore? And you can see right there, we've built some really effective gateway pages for them. So they pretty much show up, no matter where you're searching. And one of the things to kind of consider with the explicit expression is you as a user will get the result based on where you're geographically located. So if you're located to the west, or in this case, let's call it northwest, you wouldn't actually get the map pack because we're ranked number 4 there. But if you were to be searching from the east, from the south, you can see across the board we're top 3 local map pack on those. So just something to think about when you're looking at those reports. Last is page performance. And so this is one of the, another favorite metric that we look at, specifically in benchmark. So what you can see right here is we can do take a specific page and break down the search queries that kind of drive that traffic. And you'll see right here, we have a number for this brand specifically, a number that we're ranked number 1 nationally. So like I said before, those are informational related queries. They may not necessarily translate into local customers. I think for most of these articles, you only have about 20 to 30% that are in their markets that they're currently serving via the MSO. However, they're doing so well on local. What we're really aiming to do is build an incredibly strong backlink profile, as well as establish them as authority for the content they generate. So this is one of the reasons that we're doing that. So anytime you have a piece like this where we've won the first result, we have the featured snippet. What's been really cool to see with this is we started to get a lot of backlinks from, high domain authority websites, which allows us, that are citing our article, which allows us to then translate that into local success. That's our episode on local SEO. Thanks for watching. As I said before, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, leave a comment, or feel free to just jump over to the website, fill out a contact form, and we'd love to help you out. Have a good one.